Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. For all you Audie fans, my bad boy is running around here somewhere. I have no idea where. 5 minutes ago, he was yelling at me at the top of his lungs because I have everything set up to do the video, but I wasn't getting it done quickly enough to suit him because, as you can see, we have decided we want to be in the video today, and Mama just needs to move her butt a little faster. Do you want, come here. Yes, okay. See, he let me show you his face. And as I'm sure you all know, if he does not want his face shown, he makes sure it isn't. So, we got a few minutes of Audie. I was actually about to explain to you that he's been running around and he might very well make an appearance. If he doesn't, of course, I have my little Audie necklace on. So, yeah, it's sort of pseudo-Audie. He doesn't mind the necklace. I don't think he has a clue in the world what this is, that it's my little replacement Audie. But he is perfectly happy here. All right. I am going to see if I can buy him off with treats so that I can get this video filmed. I very much doubt that's going to work. As I say, he is in a cuddly mood, and I know he definitely wants to be on camera. So I'll see if I can get rid of him just for a little while. And anyway, we are going to break for the intro, and we'll be right back, hopefully minus a cat. So, I jumped down a rabbit hole this week, and it's all wrapped up in recycling and waste disposal. And before you ask, no, I am not off to join Greta Thunberg and start crusading for whatever it is she's crusading for this week. No. It just struck me as a practical matter when I was in the grocery store, and for some reason, I was just struck by the foolishness of what was going on in the grocery store. Now, a little bit of sort of backstory, because when I go into the grocery store, I go to the produce department, and in my area, and I assume this is pretty general, in my area, you take a little plastic bag, put your produce in the bag, tie it off with a little twist tie, which they supply for you, put it on the scale, print off a label, slap it on the bag, and that's how the store wants you to do it. Well, I don't want to do it that way. So, I will go into the store, I will get my produce, whatever it is, and mangoes mostly, as I'm sure you know, put it on the scale, weigh it up, take that sticker, and pop it on the side of the shopping cart. And it sticks, it'll stay there. Put my produce in the bag and then go over and get an apple. Weigh that, get the sticker, stick the sticker on the side of my shopping cart, put the apple in the bag with the mangoes, and just keep going, because why should I waste the bags? Do I really need 2 bags? It's apples, mangoes. They can all go in the same bag, okay? Now, they won't stay in those bags because apples do give off an ethylene gas that will encourage ripening, and so sometimes you want to keep the apples around if you want your fruit to ripen. But if you don't want to over-ripen prematurely, separate it from those apples. But for the time it takes me to get it home from the store, it's going to be safe enough. So that's how I want to do it. And I started to think about this, and it's like, even if I am determined to be as conscientious as possible about the amount of trash I produce and the nature of the trash I am producing, if I try to make it recyclable when I can, I'm I'm just not able to do it. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, you know, they're actively encouraging me at the store to use more bags and to use these stickers. And why? They want me to generate mess. And I thought back, when I was a kid, you'd go to the store and you would get a little wooden tub, and it was made of very thin wood. The wood was barely more than cardboard, but it was actually wood strips woven into a little tub. You take this little empty tub, and they had stacks of them in the produce department. You just grabbed your tub, put what you wanted in it, brought it over the scale, you weighed it. In those days, it wasn't so that you could print out a sticker. It was so you had an idea of how much you were buying, because the cashier, and yes, we had cashiers in the supermarket when I was a child. The cashier would then weigh it up at the register and so on. Yeah, back in the Stone Ages. But those little wooden tubs, you bring it home and they would be reused. It was just natural that they would be reused because they were made of wood and they were more substantial than you actually needed them to be for that process of getting half a pound of blueberries home from the store. So you paid for your blueberries, you also paid for this wonderful little tub that you could then reuse for whatever you wanted. And 9 times out of 10, the tub would go on the kitchen counter and one of the kids would just run along and say, ooh, this is going to hold my toy soldiers. I'm going to take this out in the yard. I'm going to play with it when I dig in the dirt, whatever. But it would end up being used for a period of time after it had taken care of its blueberry duty. And when you were done with it, it's wood. It was biodegradable. And you could have just left it in the yard and eventually it would decompose and just go right back into the soil because it was 100% natural, organic, with the exception, possibly, because I can remember some of them had staples holding them together. Others were held together with twine. Those were 100% biodegradable. It's not that way anymore. Now I end up going into the store, and what I am buying is, with the packaging, is going to produce more trash at the end of the day than the item itself. And I look at my kitchen waste and say, how much of this is actually like food-related products? Not much. It's mostly packaging. And then I have to dispose of the packaging. But here's the problem with that. It's all well and good that I'm looking around in the stores for plastics that have those little recycling triangles on them. Does that mean anything? No, it does not. Here's the thing. Just because it has a little triangle that has little arrows and it's shaped like the little recycling logo. No, there are like 9 levels of plastic and only 2 of them can be successfully recycled. So 7 of those 9 little numbers cannot be. But it's worse than that, because currently in the United States, we are only recycling less than 20% of our plastics. And I have to be careful about this because the recycling figures are in broad numbers, and they're not actually breaking it down according to what kind of plastic and which of those little 9 numbers. No. But putting it another way, 80% or more of the things that go into our recycling bin that we put out to the street, trusting that somebody is going to do the responsible thing with them, 80% or more, 80% is the minimum figure, are ending up in landfills. That absolutely blew me away when I heard that. And I'm thinking, I am sitting here in my kitchen washing my freaking trash. which is something I never thought I would do, so that I can put it in a recycling tote, so the recycling tote can go off and they can recycle it, and in fact, all they're doing is sending it off to landfills. Wow. So I have decided I am going to do my best to do my bit to deal with this. The products that have the highest rates of recycling are things like paper, wood, cardboard, that sort of thing. So I will continue to cut up my boxes because, you know, gosh, I love to shop online, so everything comes in boxes. I'm going to do my best to recycle as much of that as possible. And I do that now as it stands. I either reuse the boxes, and I reuse them whenever I can, or I recycle them. But I'm also going to take what I used to be putting in the recycling bin, which are those plastic envelopes. Now, I had been putting them in there because they all have that little recycling triangle on it. And, you know, gosh, it's like the first grader in my head is making me do it. It's like teacher says we have to. I'm going to start throwing those envelopes into the regular trash. And the reason I'm going to do this is if it's going to end up in a landfill either way, it's probably better that it goes into the trash. Because first of all, let's face it, it's more honest. You know, putting it in the recycling bin, what, I'm kidding myself? I'm pretending that somehow this is having a positive impact on the environment? No, no. If it's going to go into a landfill, I at least want to be able to confront that when I am throwing it away, throwing it in with the trash. But also because if I put it in the recycling bin and it's eventually going to make its way to a landfill, that means the people who work at the recycling center have to take my non-recyclable plastic envelopes, despite the fact that they have that little triangle on it. They have to separate that out, and then they have to send it to wherever it goes before it hits the landfill, which presumably is exactly the same place the rest of my trash is going. So I might as well just cut out the middleman, because at least I am not wasting people's time in this ridiculous adventure of non-recycling. So I was looking at this sort of globally, and I realized we are caught in this strange paradigm in which we are expected to be responsible and recycle, and we assume this is what we're doing. We do not think, oh, I will put this in the recycle bin so somebody can pick it out and throw it in a landfill. It's not why we do this. This is not why they are telling us we are doing this. And we walk away because we put it in the recycle bin. It's like, look, we did what we were supposed to do. You know, we should get that gold star, you know, that first grader in our head saying, yes, I'm playing by the rules. Pat me on the head. But that's not what's really going on. So then I started looking at the other side of this because, well, actually I started off. That was my beginning point, looking at the other side of this. Why are we dealing with all this waste? Now, I mentioned the little berry boxes that we used to use back in the day, and eventually the little berry boxes got replaced by little plastic berry boxes, which were awful because it was hard plastic and they broke. And remember, there was a long history of children playing with the berry boxes, so I think that was not okay. If that was done as a cost-saving move, it was doing it at the expense of children's safety, so no, bad idea. Now, we don't even get to do that. We don't get to put stuff in little boxes. We get plastic bags. We put it in a plastic bag. But we have to provide some sort of receptacle. Now, if I approach this not necessarily the way it was done when I was younger, but going back a little to when my mother was younger, when my grandmother would have been out shopping, she would have brought her own bags. They would have been cloth bags. She might have brought bowls or baskets or whatever, but she would bring her own packing materials. And that worked out fine for her. There were no problems. This is what people did. If you were in an area where you had larger stores, like the sort of, well, we didn't have supermarkets in those days, but bigger grocery stores where they were more likely to supply you with a paper bag. Here is a paper bag. You can take it home. And yes, you might have plastic bags, but in rural areas, with smaller stores, no, everybody did what my grandmother did. They went to the store with a basket, and that basket would be loaded up with all kinds of things, including old, multiply darned pillowcases or whatever. Just, you brought your own receptacle. It went into the store with you. It went home with you. And then, of course, we had other situations like milk delivery. If you wanted milk, you just called the local dairy. They brought the milk to your house in their own bottles, and you would use the milk. You would rinse out the bottle. You would put it back out. The milkman would take the bottle, take it away. I actually had milk delivery to my home until the mid-1990s. And it was great because I didn't have to deal with milk mess. The only trash you ended up with was that little quarter-sized, well, actually I think it was $half sized, cardboard plug that sealed your milk bottle. That was it. So we didn't have to deal with a lot of the trash we have to deal with today. I don't know how big an issue this is for everybody else, but I can tell you that for one person and a cat, because of course, you know, Audie's already made it clear that we have to pay attention to him in this video, I really generate an awful lot of household trash. Mostly it's coming out of the kitchen. That's where the majority of it comes from. It's a lot more than you would think for one person. And I look at this and think, is there any way I can get around this? And there really isn't. If I want to buy pasta in the store, I buy it in a box. There are some things I will do, by the way, just in the interest of full disclosure. If I feel they are forcing too much trash on me in my local grocery store, I will take whatever product I have purchased, take some of those little produce bags, and after I've checked out, I will dump stuff into the produce bags and then leave the trash at the grocery store so they can deal with it. And yes, I will have to deal with a little plastic bag, and that little plastic bag, fortunately, is very, very small. But now that I'm looking at this more globally, and I realize I might be better off with the cardboard box, because at least it's paper, it will eventually biodegrade, and even if it doesn't, paper products have a much, much higher recycle rate than plastics. So I don't know. I'm trying to sort this out. I'm trying to navigate my way through this, and I don't really have an answer at this point. What I do know is that for one person, I am generating a lot of trash. I generate a very high amount of recycling, but that's mostly because of those cardboard boxes from home deliveries, and I put them into the recycling bin. Also, I recycled in the past, because I'm changing my ways now. Anything they were willing to take, I would put in the recycle bin, because I spoke with the person in charge of this for my township, and he told me that the township actually gets paid money for the recycling. So if they show up with a lot of recycling, they get a check. That money goes into the Parks and Recreation Services, which means kids having a safe place to play ball. So I am at one with that. And therefore, see how complex this is. When I'm throwing plastic that's going to end up in a landfill into my recycling bin, I'm doing it not just because I want to follow the rules, but I want to help the kids in my community get a baseball diamond. I've always been told that this was the right thing to do, and I'm just not so sure it is. So, as I say, I am changing my formerly goody two-shoes way of recycling everything. Boy, if it had that little triangle on it, it went in the recycle bin. I got to be a lot more cautious about that. Yes, my recycling bin is still going to be full all the time because I do have a huge amount of cardboard trash waste just from online shopping. But now I have to start looking more critically at some of the other things. And I need to be honest with myself about the plastic. I also need to be honest with my township, because frankly, they've got to dispose of it. And if they have to pay to dispose of this, and I don't know that they do, but I assume they must, then whatever money I think I'm providing for the kids and the ball fields, I'm probably taking back some of that just by generating extra work for them to dispose of plastics that probably shouldn't be in the recycle bin in the first place if they're not going to recycle them. So there you go. This is my dilemma. And I don't actually know very much about how recycling works. Just finding out exactly, what is going on in terms of the numbers, higher percentages for wood, paper pulp, that sort of thing, very, very low percentages of plastic being recycled, most of it going to landfills. I wouldn't mind so much if the paper goods were going to a landfill because, like I say, it will biodegrade. Eventually, it will not be a problem anymore. It will just, seep back into the soil where it started and everything will be great. But the plastics will not. So now I'm trying to figure out. Obviously, I have more research I need to do. I need to figure out exactly why this is happening. Somebody must have some theories on it. Why is it that we are all, recycling like little rabid chipmunks? It's like, oh no, don't put that in the trash, put it in the recycling bin. Oh, by the way, if you want a lecture on that, talk to your average first grader, because they know all about that. Why are we doing this if, in fact, the only thing that's coming of it is that we feel better about ourselves because we think we are recycling, but in fact we are not. So that is not a net win. I know it sounds like a net win when you say, well, we get to feel better about ourselves, but not if it is a false sense of doing the right thing, if in fact we're really just contributing to landfills. And we are lying to ourselves about this by putting it in the recycling bin. And in that sense, we're not confronting the issue. You can never solve a problem without first confronting it. So, yes, first step in solving any problem is to recognize that there is a problem, which we don't do if we are throwing all of those non-recycled plastics into the recycling bin. It's like, it's just crazy. This is like one of those things that you expect to encounter in a dystopian novel. You know, it's like, yeah, Brave New World or something. No, I don't want to play this game. So I need to do a little more research, find out exactly what's going on, try to find out if anybody out there who has a more significant voice than just me, if anybody is doing anything about it, and if they are, then maybe I need to look at what they're doing, because there's no need for me to reinvent the wheel if somebody else has strategies that are working. So anyway, my reason for sharing this with you is because, first of all, I hate trickery, and I'm feeling very, very tricked right now. I am looking at the amount of plastic going into landfills, finding out that, I mean, obviously, I knew I was throwing away plastic. I'm not stupid. Yes, I'm throwing away plastic, but I never knew it was going into a landfill, and not at a rate of above 80%. So I'm feeling like, you know, I thought I was doing the right thing, and it turns out, instead of being part of the solution, I'm part of the problem. And gosh, that frosts my cookies, because it's even worse than just being part of the problem, because I am parts of many problems that I know they exist, but at least if I am part of the problem and no one's lying to me about it, I am forced to confront my participation. I should use less electricity, by the way. That's one of the things that I was thinking about when I said that. What problems am I part of? Yeah, I could be a lot more conservative in my electric usage, but at least I know that, which means it's on that list of things I really should address at some point. But I didn't think recycling was. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought, you know, I'm one of the good guys. I am recycling. Yeah, no. I am one of the bad guys who is contributing to plastic-filled landfills. And it's not something that sits well with me. All right, do you want to say hi? Okay, excuse me a second. Let's just scoot him over. All right, come on. There we go. There's Audie's face. So that's why this is ticking me off so much. It's bad enough that I'm contributing to landfills, but I was doing it without knowing. I was doing it because somebody lied to me about it. So I get to feel like an eco-criminal, first of all. I get to feel like an idiot for not knowing this was going on. Oh yeah, that doesn't make me feel good. And I get to feel like a dupe because somebody lied to me and I let them. So that's why this is really irritating me. The other side of this, and this is where we started, is then I am looking at the fact that there's no way I can get through my daily life without generating trash that is either going into the trash barrel or going into the recycle bin. It's not like it was in my grandmother's day. If I go to a store with a little canvas bag, I actually bring a big canvas bag every time I go and put my shopping in there, but a little canvas bag and say, I'm going to put my berries in here, they're not going to let me do that. If they go crazy because I put my apples in the mango bag, can you just imagine what would happen to me if I started bringing in my own little gunny sack saying, well, this is how I'm dealing with it? No, that's too eccentric for them. I have to deal with the fact that I generate trash. I also have to deal with the fact that it is not being recycled the way I thought it was. And so when I put the two together and said, well, I've got this certain amount of plastic waste that I have in my life just by virtue of living in the U.S. in the 21st century. It's there. Can't get rid of it, but it's not being recycled. Then I have to figure out what I need to do about it. So that's where I am at. I thought I would share that with you because this is my latest dilemma. And as I said before, no, I am not going to go off and become an eco crusader. I wouldn't have even gotten involved as far as I have if they hadn't basically treated me like an idiotic patsy in the first place by lying to me. You know, it's like, we're going to lie to you, we're going to make you feel stupid, and we're going to make you feel gullible because you bought into our lies. Yeah. So essentially, if they hadn't hit me in my vanity, I probably would not even be dealing with this right now. But because I am, and because they have tried to make me a patsy. They have treated me like a moron. I'm so unhappy about this. I am going to deal with it. So I wanted to throw that out just for discussion. Are you dealing with this? Do you have successful methods of reducing trash? Because not all of us live in areas with good trash pickup. In more rural areas, trash pickup is very often, well, it's a luxury. It's expensive because you as a homeowner have to pay for your own trash service. Ordinarily, if you're in a city, it will either come through as part of your property taxes, things like that, or they will find some other way to make sure your trash is getting picked up, because in a city, they cannot have the populace going renegade and not adequately disposing of their trash. And I totally get that. But there may be some of us who have better methods of dealing with this. Right now, I guess my primary plan is continue to recycle the wood products, which includes cardboards, papers, whatever, put the plastic in with the regular trash, because it's going to end up there anyway, and just hope for the best. But I haven't figured out a way to even begin to cut down on that stuff coming into my home in the first place. Anybody with ideas? Well, the comment section is open for you. Okay, that is what I have for you today. And by the way, I do have a couple of articles on recycling in the video notes in case you're interested in this. And they are coming from a government website and the National Public Radio publication. So it's pretty good stuff, and it is reliable if you're interested. Thank you for being with us. We did get some Audie time. I'm sure he's thrilled. As you know, because I told you last week, I will not be making a video for tomorrow, Sunday. Not in the morning. We'll have the evening video for those of you who follow it. And we're going to see how this works out. Oh, and by the way, I am getting more sleep. This is really something that I've needed to do, if for no other reason than it's nice to be able to get some sleep for a change. So, thanks for being with us. We're going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I hope to see you next time, and in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.